Hello, and thank you for joining me today as I recite the powerful Neville Goddard's speech on how to use the power of I am. Imagination, it seems, will do little for our wish until we have imagined the wish fulfilled. As Shakespeare said, it has been taught us from primal state that which is was wished until it were. So you and I want something, and we define our objective and how to realize it. If this power is, then we are the operative power. We do not seek anyone, the outside of it, simply within us. Well, how do I operate it? If I could put it in this simple little frame, the subjective appropriation of the objective hope is the way to success. It's imagining as if it were true. What would the feeling be like if it were true? So I start from the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I must begin by feeling that I have already arrived. I have already achieved my goal, and catch the mood that would be mine if it were true, and then wear that mood. If I wear that mood as if it were true, I'll realize it in my world. A friend of mine was here tonight. She thought that she had failed this past November in their visit to Pittsburgh. Friends of hers that she knew well, and that they were a little bit dumb because of their seeming recession. One friend had worked for 27 years at Jones & Laughlin, one of the great big steel firms of our country. In the month of September and October, they let out 4,000 workers. He had to put in another 3 years and 2 months to complete service with the firm. After 30 years, he could retire at, I would say, a very good retirement fund. But he also had 6 more years to go for his Social Security. And they let out 4,000. And then it was rumored in the plant that they were going to close that plant. She reminded him of the use of imagination, which she had used with him successfully in her previous visit to Pittsburgh. Well, he laughed it off. Those things would have happened anyway. She reminded him of 6 distinct requests on his part that he thought he could never realize. Everyone come to pass, as she reminded him. And then she took a vision of mine and explained it to him. You know what I told you the last time that Neville had a vision? Well, the Bible tells us that the depths of our own being speaks to us through the medium of dreams and vision. So here in this dream of mine, call it a dream if you will, it was just as real as this. I was taken in spirit into an enormous mansion. And here 3 generations were present, but one was invisible, and that was the grandfather. The father was explaining to his children the secret to his own father's success. So there was the grandfather, now departed from the world, leaving behind him an enormous fortune for the benefit of his son and his grandchildren. And so the father said to the children, "Grandfather used to say while standing in an empty lot, 'I remember when this was an empty lot.' Then he would paint a world picture so vividly that what he intended to do with that empty lot, that it ceased to be an empty lot. And you saw the structure that he intended to build, but he acted as though it was already a completed act. He began with the feeling of having arrived at his ideal for that empty lot. Then I woke in my bed and I recalled the dream, and I knew that the depths of my own being had constructed that scene to instruct me. Here is one facet of the great use of this power called imagination, which is God. It was too early to rise, so I went back to sleep, and I redreamed the dream. This time, I am the grandfather. I am not the father telling the story. I am not an eavesdropper listening to the story, as it was told in the original dream. I am now the grandfather. Then I would say to everybody standing on an empty lot, "I remember when this was an empty lot." So she reminded him of this technique. So she said, "You are afraid that you might be let out after 27 years and 2 months in Jones and Lachlan. I will now remember when you were afraid. I will remember when you thought it all came to an end. That's what." He said 2 years ago, I was interviewed and I thought of a very good interview, but after 2 years, it has never appeared in the trade paper, and I wondered, what have they done with it? Have they simply forgotten or misled it deliberately, not used? She said, "I will read that magazine and I'll be lifted up by it. It's humorously written, as you tell me. Well, I will take that book right now in a magazine and I will read it all about you." She went into 2 or 3 others, then she returned. Now she is here tonight. She said, "In December I received the magazine. It is very well written and very, very humorous, all about this man." Then she said, "I heard on the radio that Jones and Lachlan had decided not to close the plant, but instead to spend $13 million on the plant in modernizing and then beginning January, the first to recall over 4,000 workers that they had let out. Now he is walking on air, but like all these fellas, he will still forget. You still turn to a God outside of himself. This to him would have happened anyway. They would have spent the 13 million, brought back the 4,000. That thing that was found after 2 years and printed, that all would have happened. And man goes blindly on worshiping a false God because he does not know God. The only God is your own wonderful human imagination. The only name that is forever and ever in him. Name is I am. So that is my name forever. So when you come to the people of Israel and they ask you, what is his name? Just simply say, I am. That is who I am. And by this name, I shall be known throughout all generations. There is no other name you can separate I am from yourself. That's your essential being. And when you say, I am, that's you, essential being. And when you say, I am, you are all imagination. You cannot stick imagination on the outside and point to it so you do not observe it as you observe the fruit of imagining. You do not observe imagination as you do objects in space, because you are reality. That is called imagination. This is what we teach here, night after night. Now you can test it. What would the feeling be like if it were true that I am now the man that I would like to be? Catch the mood, for the mood determines the fortunes of people, rather than fortunes determine the mood. Man puts it just the opposite. If I had $1 million, he said, oh, I would feel so good. What would be the feeling? Now feel as you were if you had to catch the mood, and the mood will create that objective. Hope, if that is your hope. What would the feeling be like if you are now the person you want to be? Then catch that mood and wear that mood as if it were the suit of clothes, and that mood will actually create an objective state that reflects that mood.